We got one here from Jake Monroe about the 3-year-old that got thrown to the crocodiles. This one's kind of a quick hit. I think we can get through this one. And then I've got this one from Count Dankula about the girl from Dundee, Scotland, wielding the double blades against a pair of gypsy nonces. I know it's been pretty heavy and pretty dark today, and at times a little bit black pilling. I'm going to ask that you bear with me for these last two, and then we'll do some palette cleanse with something a bit more fun. We can talk cars or watches or do some travel vids or something like that. So yeah, let's go ahead and do this first. Let's do this first. This is from Jake Monroe. If you're not following Jake Monroe, make sure you follow him. YouTube, Rumble. I think he's on Kick too. No. He's on X. He's on Rumble. He's on YouTube. Got some things on Spotify and Instagram, if you still use those. Heavy but necessary, yeah. I mean, this is what happens when I'm gone for a couple of weeks. It's it's the same thing when Keisha goes on holiday. It seems like everything happens while she's gone. Feels like everything happened while I was gone. So we're kind of getting caught up. Most blackpilling things so far in my lifetime has been the bureaucratic incompetence of public employees. It's one of the few constants in the known universe, Harold, and it's unfortunate. And it's one of those things that you find that no matter where you go. In a minute you took some time for nuke dropped, yeah. That's one way of putting it. Right. Jake Monroe, highlight video from one of his streams. He threw a 3-year-old to the crocodiles. 3, 2, 1, go.
3-year-old has been thrown into a crocodile enclosure by unrelated 30-year-old stranger. And a lot of people assumed, because none of the description of the stranger has been released, that he's most likely some sort of migrant, most likely of the black or brown variety. And that's why he did it, because it was anti-white. And people...
It's the culture rule. If the press does not report on the race of the criminal in the story, whether you don't get his name or something like that, you can assume he's a minority. That's the culture rule, developed by right-wing pundit and culture. And it's true. That's what the legacy media does. Yeah, roses are red, violets are blue. If the description isn't released, you already know who. Well done, Action. That's good. They didn't stop censoring criminals until people noticed it was foreigners. Yeah.
People rightfully believe this to be the case, because essentially what happened is this. If there are no details of the assailant released by the police, it's usually because he was not white. If he was white, they would say his name and there'd be a face picture posted and we'd all know who it was. This baby...
It was sort of like the bloke who started attacking anyone who appeared to be Middle Eastern. I think it was somewhere up in the north in Britain. It might have been Scotland. And the press expects us to be outraged about this sort of thing. It's like, you have a report documenting decades and over 250,000 young girls in Britain being raped, sexually assaulted, tortured, trafficked, abused by predominantly Middle Eastern rape gangs. What the fuck did you think was going to happen? You have made peaceful revolution impossible, so you've made violent revolution inevitable. Dankula? No, this is not Count Dankula, this is Jake Monroe.
This 3-year-old, on most likely his first day at a zoo, and most likely his last, was thrown into a crocodile enclosure by this unrelated 30-year-old stranger. He was not related, was not with the kid, was not related to the kid, was not related to the parents of the kid, completely unrelated. And a lot of people speculated that this person was most likely black or brown, which may still be the case. However, details are arising that this person, this 30-year-old stranger that threw a toddler into a crocodile enclosure, was actually there for a day trip as part of a group for the mentally handicapped. So the initial reports could possibly be obfuscated.
Again, make asylums great again. These people don't need to be out in polite society like that. There's a reason that we kept them in padded rooms for the rest of their natural lives, doped up out of the mind on tranquilizers and straitjacketed, so that they would not be a public nuisance like that, because that was the only way they could be kept in line. Asylums, catapults, some kind of thing to get them out of normal society, yeah. And the catapult may be the moderate option at this point. As someone who's been special classes in school, I can confirm this checks out, yeah?
Because he is mentally incapable and is most likely seen as a vulnerable person, and that's why they haven't released his information yet. And on top of that, he was brought in for questioning and was unfit for questioning. So he's that kind of f***ed up. He's that kind of and
yeah, he is that level of mentally retarded that he had no idea a police interrogation was going on. Now, in a normal functioning society, he would be very quickly straight-jacketed, shuffled into a paddy wagon, and carted off to the nearest sanitarium, and would be left there, where the people in charge there would take care of him, and again keep him straight-jacketed in a padded room, doped up out of his mind on tranquilizers, so that he doesn't know what day of the week it is, or which way is left or which way is right, and he would not be a problem for society as a whole ever again. This did not happen. This did not happen. Apparently he was just let go. And it was like, right, off you get.
He had a bail, and it was paid for the next day. We don't know how much that was or who paid it, and
Probably not
that's
much.
all the details we have at the moment. As for the kid, critical condition, though stable. So the kid was f***ed up. Okay, as you could probably
Well, he's going to be fucked up for the rest of his life.
Into the enclosure caused quite considerable amount of injury to the kid, and the kid was then subject to attack.
He's lucky he wasn't killed. Just from the
been led to believe
from the fall.
Wife of the zoo owner, the wife of the owner, along with a few other enclosure rangers or whatever the fuck you call them, they also jumped in immediately into the enclosure to rescue the child. The child was then airlifted from the zoo and is in critical but stable condition. So far the kid is not dead, so that's great. That's good. Again,
not dead, but lucky to be alive.
Children affects me so terribly. It really does. It's really, really hard to imagine. I've taken a 3-year-old to the zoo many times, to the aquarium. And now that I mention that, I never once took my eyes off that kid. Not once. Because you don't want to miss a single moment of wonder on their little face.
Jake's a dad. He's a father. He knows. I believe he's got a wife and kids, or at least girlfriend and kids. He's a father. He knows.
How was this guy able to get near the kid long enough to lift him up and throw him over? Was it really quick? Was it fast? Why was no one watching this roaming? Where were his handlers, his carers? We need to know the full details of this, because the more I talk about it, the more it doesn't seem to make any fucking sense. The more I talk about this story, the more I can't understand exactly what the order of events was. How do you take your eyes off the kid long enough for this to happen? Was it like a flash thing that happened? Right, so 3-year-old boy.
There's nothing compassionate about letting these sorts of people out and about. There's just, by their very nature, there is no rehabilitating them. You have to keep them away from other people, lest they become a danger to the public.
Thrown to crocodile enclosure and suffered serious injuries. Reports mentioned broken bones. Some early accounts referenced potential.
Yeah, that kind of a fall from that high of a level, you are going to break something. You are going to break a bone, no matter if you are young or old. And really, thank God he was not killed from that being yeeted from that high up. My best guess is the poor kid was snatched up in an instant, because that's all the time it takes for something like that to happen. Yeah, probably. Probably. It all just happened so fast that nobody really had time to react to it. But again, this mentally defective person should not have been allowed out in public for any sort of outing like that. There's a version of reality where single-digit age me lost a leg to an alligator at a zoo because I thought that was a statue, if not from my mum realizing it wasn't. Yeah, there's plenty of instances, I think, throughout all of our lives where we should have died or have been or had something horrible happen to us where we lose a limb or, break something critical. It really is true, the old saying, God protects fools and children. There, but for the mercy of God, go we.
Related injuries, but later ones noted no bites. Okay, so The child was not actually attacked by the crocodiles. It seems that the injuries the kid sustained were almost entirely from being thrown into the enclosure. The fall must have been quite considerable. He was airlifted to...
I mean, had he been left in there long enough, and if those crocodiles got hungry enough, we would be telling a much different story here. We're quite fortunate that people acted as quickly as they did, particularly the zookeepers.
Addenbrooke's hospital in Cambridge and is in critical but stable condition. The man's actions and status, as he is described as a stranger to the child. Reports consistently say he threw or forced the boy into the enclosure. He was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. He has learning disabilities or possible mental health issues and was assessed as not fit for interview. He was released on bail until September 18th. So he's not going to be in court. He's not going to be in court until September 18th, 2026. So he's
not going, so for, let's see, July, August, for at least 3 months, basically released on his own recognizance. Basically allowed to roam free for 3 months, as of the time of this stream and this video that we're doing here now. Meanwhile, the child is clinging to his life in hospital in Cambridge. Remains to be seen if he will live, if the child will live. Make it make fucking sense. Make it make sense. If there were any concept of justice left in the British legal system, this man would be held without bail. Because if he's willing to do that to a child, who knows what else he's willing to do, and to whom.
He's just walking around until then. This murderous is actually just walking around the streets, free as anything or anyone, until September 18th, 2026. His full identity, background, or exact motives have not been released. The zoo owner's wife, Tracy Johnson, reportedly jumped into the enclosure to help the boy. Zoo staff then took over and pulled the child out. It was at a place called Johnson's of Oldhurst, also called Johnson's Zoo, a family-run farm and zoo near Huntingdon in Cambridgeshire, Eastern England. Crocodile enclosure held up to 10 crocodiles. Additional context, police have appealed for witnesses who were at the zoo that day and urged the public to avoid speculation online, as it is an active criminal investigation. The zoo issued a statement expressing thoughts and prayers for the boy and his family. No further personal details about the man, for example, name, occupation, and prior history, have been made public as of the latest reports. This appears to be a very recent incident. For the most up-to-date information, check official sources like Cambridgeshire Police updates or reputable UK news outlets. Let's check out Cambridgeshire Police. 9 hours, 4 hours, man released on bail. Guardian. Man arrested on suspicion of attempted murder.
Yeah,
Ended
fuck
up in
the
a crocodile
Guardian.
enclosure.
I want to live in a world where Jake has his links framed with guns instead of knives. I'd love to live in that world too. I think on the surface level, the knife is a bit more goth, whereas the guns would be maybe a bit more punk rock. Because these days, goth and punk rock is a bit of a distinction without a difference, really. Yeah, fuck your thoughts and prayers. Tell us who the perp was. Yeah, I want to know who this bastard is. Guns with knives and bayonets. There's a thought.
Been released because he's not fit to be interviewed. 30-year-old from Norfolk has been bailed while the detectives from the Major Crimes Unit conduct further inquiries. The force said officers were called to John.
I mean, even then, it might be the point where he has to change them from knives over to bones or something like that.
Johnson's Oldhurst Zoo in the afternoon, 1:24 p.m. on Thursday, over reports of an incident involving a 3-year-old boy during which he ended up in the crocodile enclosure. The boy was pulled out of the enclosure by staff from the zoo. He was taken to Addenbrooke Hospital. We know all this. Villager who did not want to be named told PA Media that the zoo owner's wife, Tracy Johnson, jumped into the enclosure to try and save the child. In a statement posted on social media, Johnson said, "Our thoughts and prayers with the child. Out of respect to the family, our tropical house will remain closed until further notice. If you have any questions about the incident, please direct inquiries to..."
They're probably having to do a complete overhaul of their safety and security measures. I remember when it was about music and the people that were only into the clothing or the culture were called posers, so I guess neither exists anymore. I mean, there's still some people who are legitimate and authentic, like Jake, for example. But yeah, a lot of people just into the aesthetic these days. But even then, going back and looking at some of the old footage of goths and people in the punk scene, surprising number of them, not left-wingers, not communists, fairly hard to the right, some of them even neo-fascists. The numbers would surprise you. I always get a bit of a chuckle and a smile. That old footage from the old Regis and Kathy Lee television show in America had a group of I guess goth or punk rock kids or young adults, and just one of them was just like, yeah, but, we might look a bit weird, but we're fairly normal people in our daily lives, and we all work and go to church and vote and stuff like that. And Kathy Lee's just like, certainly none of you vote Republican. And one of the girls is just like, I'm a registered Republican. So it always surprises you. And then the people who've sort of taken over the scene don't really like to talk about that because a lot of them are shit libs and abject communists. But goth and punk, very much right wing coded, right wing phenomenon. Guns can be goth. Wrap them in shibari like how the X Count does. There you go. There's an idea. So, like members of the Beatles and pioneers of blues and rock and roll, the people involved in jazz early on. Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, John Lennon, before his death, expressed certain sympathies. I believe he was living in New York at the time. Expressed a lot of sympathies and a lot of and some, at least some tacit public support for Ronald Reagan around the time when he was running for president.
Cambridgeshire Police Constabulary. And here we go with the typical journalist padding. According to its website, the zoo is home to over 1,000 fascinating animals, including African lions, Bengal tigers, and crocodiles. The zoo's two
usual
largest
PR
crocodiles are called
nonsense.
Romeo and Cuddles. The zoo says on its Facebook page, Charlotte Lowe, a Huntingdonshire district councillor, said she can't fathom how the boy ended up in the crocodile enclosure. Did she read the report? That's all we know about what's happening with this crocodile situation. However, you may have seen online that people are talking about the fact that the reason why the police are not releasing the name of the guy who was involved is because they're trying to protect the identity of an immigrant. But look, that is the case. Okay, you're very justified in thinking that that's the case because the police do that. If it is a white guy, they tell you straight away, almost as if they're bragging about the fact that it's a white guy. If they withhold the identity of the perpetrator, it's usually because they're a immigrant and they don't want this story getting out, right? They want to make sure that the story information has died down a bit before they release that information covertly. And you know what? Another thing as well, it's totally believable, isn't it? It's totally believable. You heard a story about a white kid being thrown into an enclosure by a complete 30-year-old stranger, and everyone went immigrant, and people were just kind of like this. Probably.
I mean, it's easy to see why.
Societal problem that societal trust is that low. They have squandered so much of our welcoming nature by being such reprehensible pieces of shit. Whenever something like this happens without any confirmation at all, people are just like, it's probably a migrant, it's probably a Muslim, and people were super confident in making that assumption. In fact, it still might be true.
I mean, what are the odds? Even though probably mentally retarded. What are the odds? Inbred Paki. I mean, it's easy to see. It's a prevalent problem with Pakistani Muslims. One of the big reasons why there's such a drain on the welfare state over there, because they won't stop inbreeding. They won't stop marrying each other's cousins. I vaguely remember some star giving a somewhat positive comment on Enoch Powell. Yeah, I would bet it was probably someone from the Sex Pistols. Now, if only there was a follow-up step of getting rid of them, since everyone knows what the problem is, right?
I might believe in Muhammad, right? Which is a mental in itself. Praise Muhammad. Praise Allah. Right? They really think this is... No. Praising that kind of shit is mentally doing that shit anyway, so...
Yeah.
Maybe that is it. It's like, yeah, we have some people here who have cerebral palsy, and some of them have MS, and some of them have learning difficulties and brain deformations. What about that guy? Oh, well, he's just a Muslim. Right, so why is he here? Because he's a Muslim. Right. How? Yeah. Fits right in with the...
No further explanation required.
Oh, my God. You know what? I actually can't remember the last time a kid with Down syndrome drove his car into a crowd of people at a Christmas market. That's exclusively a Muslim thing, actually.
Mainly because they don't do
right?
that.
You've got those buses that are specifically designated for mentally handicapped people.
The short buses.
With
the invalid carriages.
Autism or any of those other things. And then you just see like a fucking turban wearing a towel head in the back, like a 70 IQ Muslim. All right, Abdul, where are you going today, buddy? We're going to the zoo. Are you gonna have fun? Yes. No, you're not gonna throw kids into the crocodile enclosure. That's the first thing I'm going to do. Oh, well,
When they tell you what they're going to do to you, you should believe them. Take them at their word. Take them at face value, but also assume they're lying to you. Good old Jake, right? Pakistan is an aristocrat's joke in real life. Well, I don't even know about an aristocrat's joke. They're just a joke.
That's my idea of fun. Find a kid into the enclosure. Go home. Inshallah. I'm just glad the kid is fucking stable, but I can't imagine the trauma of this being a parent, man. That is absolutely disgusting.
Oh,
I can't imagine the panic of those parents. No, I can. No, I can imagine that for a couple of seconds before I don't want to imagine it anymore. Absolutely horrendous. Absolutely horrendous story.
Yeah, it's fucked up. It's incredibly fucked up. Right, I guess a like. That's getting a like. And that's going to get dropped into the chat across all platforms. There you go.